Upgrades. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today, we are bringing you the latest from Marvel Studios, and this one is Captain America Brave New World, and it stars Anthony Mackie, Danny Rodriguez, Harrison Ford, Giancarlo Expedito, Tim Blake Nelson. It's a huge cast here. And this is directed by Julius Onah, and this is a quick synopsis of it. Following the election of Thaddeus Ross, Sam Wilson finds himself at the center of an international incident, and he must find out who the true masterminds are behind it. Now, very quickly, Brave New World is following, if you're accustomed to the Captain America series, I don't include Civil War in this because Civil War is Avengers 2.5. So it's really following in the trend of Winter Soldier in these more realistic depictions of what it means to be a superhero in a Marvel universe. At least that's what's pitched to you from the trailers and everything else until you see a Hulk show up. Like, that's what's told to the audience that this is what you should expect. So going into this movie, I think a lot of people are expecting something similar to the Winter Soldier. When you leave this movie, what you realize is this movie is very disjointed, very convoluted, very confusing, and it's only confusing because it feels like it has no sense of direction. From the beginning of Brave New World, when you are introduced to the new Captain America on a huge action plateau, like it literally starts off, again, it's weird. I don't want to constantly compare it to Winter Soldier, but Winter Soldier started off in the same realm of showing you a huge action scene to show you exactly what Captain America can do. And we are introduced to Sam Wilson as Captain America just the same exact way with his action scene, but from the beginning of that action scene, which is lackluster, I think you understand exactly what you're getting into with Brave New World. As the plot unfolds and you're attempting to figure out exactly who the villain is, as we're introduced to Harrison Ford playing Thaddeus Ross, and we go back to Isaiah Bradley, who we absolutely loved if you saw the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus show, and just the way they connected that into the new Captain America. I think that was done creatively. And here, when we're dropped into this scene with Falcon, the new Captain America, and then Isaiah Bradley, it kind of throws the audience for a loop. And yes, there's a new Falcon in this movie. Didn't expect it. Because again, I try my best to be surprised in going into these films and not researching too much about it. So I didn't know that Danny Rodriguez, who plays a military personnel who is also the new Falcon, it's a lot going on here. And once you're introduced to them and you're introduced again to Isaiah Bradley, you see the setup of exactly what's going on. Now, if you've seen any trailer of Captain America Brave New World, you kind of know what happens from that point forward here. And that is problem number one with this movie, is that a lot of the trailers, if you've seen them all, boy, do they expose you to way too much of what's going to happen in this film. A lot of the bigger moments that you would love to be surprised by are in the trailers. So if you've seen all the trailers, including the trailer that unfortunately reveals that there is a Hulk in this film, by the time you get to the point of the film and you see that reveal, it's so late in the film, it kind of spoils everything that's going to happen for you. So the trailers tend to give you way too much of what's happening in this film. If you haven't seen any of the trailers, I think you're going to go into it a little more optimistic on what you're seeing. But the issue still remains the same, and that is that a lot of this film is extremely lackluster. And it's not because of Julius's direction. Like, the direction is one of the strong suits of this film, that the director attempts to weave together all of these convoluted stories. The problem is, if you've been following the track of everything with Brave New World, we kind of know the behind the scenes stuff that's been rumored. And once you see the film, all of it kind of comes to fruition to you. It feels like a pieced together film. Nothing feels complete. As we're introduced again to Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson's new Captain America, and we see that he's attempting to help the president start a peace treaty for something that I feel like it would be spoiling it if I said it, so I won't say it. But it's something that has ramifications moving forward in the MCU. And when Thaddeus Ross, played by Harrison Ford, attempts to introduce this and have to get other countries on board to it, that's what he brings Captain America in for. But that's where the disconnect starts. We're not accustomed to seeing that past the first Avenger with Steve Rogers, because we understand the disconnect that happened between Captain America and the government. And here they kind of put you right back into the middle of Captain America thinking he can work with the government. And in turn, it goes exactly the pattern that you think it's going to go down in this film. And that is the weak link of Captain America Brave New World, is that this film, unfortunately, is highly predictable. It has possibly the worst story that I've ever seen in a Marvel film, because it doesn't attempt in any way, shape, form, or fashion to surprise you. It doesn't attempt in any way, shape, form, or fashion to give you something fresh. Like, you kind of feel the beats of old Marvel. So if you're someone who likes the older Marvel films, but can acknowledge the flaws in those older films, I think this is the film that unfortunately will highlight those flaws even more to you, because it lacks the pure execution of those earlier Marvel films, along with Captain America Brave New World being heavily connected to what a lot of people will put on their lists as one of the worst Marvel films ever made, which is The Incredible Hulk. And that film ties heavily into Brave New World. And I think that is another issue that a lot of people are going to have, because it's been so long since that Hulk movie came out, and it wasn't a movie that was necessarily received well by an audience. So when you're doing a Captain America movie and you're not necessarily connecting it to the prior Captain America movies, or even the Disney Plus series of Winter Soldier and Falcon, instead you're heavily connecting it to kind of an obscure Marvel movie that a lot of people would like to forget ever came out, I think that leads to the flaws in this film. Along with the Celestials finally being mentioned, this huge Celestial that everyone's been waiting for since the Eternals to be brought up. It's brought up in this film. I think that was done in a very creative way. But unfortunately, because there's no emotional weight behind this movie, all of it's for naught. We get to see action scenes, and Anthony Mackie as Captain America does a great job at the action scenes. The problem is, unfortunately, he doesn't have the charismatic punch in this role that you would need to want to continue to see something with Sam Wilson as Captain America. Most of the film, it feels like you're still seeing Sam Wilson attempting to be Captain America. And at that point, it almost negates completely that we saw an entire 6-episode arc of him becoming Captain America. In his film, it almost feels like at times that you're starting from step one. Now let's get to the ridiculousness of this film here. Anybody who knows anything, the rumored background issues of this film, and that this film's set for a year, all of that stuff, again, is something that you can completely forget about if the film was better. But at times, because of bad CGI, bad transitions and scenes, you kind of can pinpoint the stuff that was shot after the film was done and test screened and audience possibly didn't receive it well, to what you get. And that is part of the problem here. John Carlos Stanton, who plays Sidewinder in this film, character I didn't know much about. I'm not a comic book guy, but I love his work as an actor here. But here he's given little to nothing to work with. And he is almost absolutely pointless in this film. And that is, again, a huge issue with Captain America Brave New World, is that I don't believe they focused enough on what an audience would want to come and see, which would be Anthony Mackie being Captain America. At this point, once you make that decision, you have to jump feet first into it, and it feels like they're still attempting to give you so much other stuff. The introduction of another Falcon is something that completely can throw a lot of people off with this film here. Even hearing multiple people during the course of the movie call Anthony Mackie Captain America just doesn't feel genuine. And it can throw you off as you're watching this movie. Again, along with a storyline that's not good, a plot that could be the worst that Marvel has ever put together. And then you have bad CGI, bad transitions. It's so much stuff in this film that it just feels like it's a pieced together film. And it's other comparisons in this genre that you could possibly use. A lot of them would be the Sony movies that have come out, where it just feels so pieced together and so jumbled that you can leave an audience wondering, what the heck did I just watch here? Who should I be cheering for? Who should I not be cheering for? All these are questions that you go through while you're watching Brave New World. And unfortunately for it, it's no part that sticks out that you can latch hold to want you to push forward in this film here. I mean, I'd give at least credit to the attempt to elevate Sam Wilson's character to Captain America. But after this movie, you kind of wonder, if we're going to constantly get Sam Wilson questioning if he should be Captain America, what's the point of him being Captain America? And that's where Captain America Brave New World leaves you, is it's so much confusion here. Thaddeus Ross's character in whole with Harrison Ford, and a secret that should have remained a secret of who Thaddeus Ross were turning to in the film, because that secret is revealed in the trailer, it completely eliminates the third act of being anything humanly possible that you could care about. As far as pacing with the film goes, after about an hour and 20 minutes, where I thought the film naturally felt like it reached its end point, it's another 40 minutes behind that hour and 20 minutes where no matter who you are in the audience, you're going to feel like the film is over. And then you have 40 minutes left in it. And that 40 minutes feels just so out of place and unnecessary. And then that's when, at the point where you get the big reveal that unfortunately that I feel they revealed in trailers that they should have held on to. And that is, again, a huge issue for Captain America Brave New World. Along with the ending of the third act here, this is, Marvel has always struggled with third acts, and they struggle with third acts a little bit to, like, stick the landing, if you catch my drift here. Unfortunately, because this movie is so convoluted with characters and so convoluted with storylines leading up to this third act, and then you want them to stick the landing in the third act, they give you a BVS Martha moment. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because I don't want to spoil it for people. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the way BVS was with Martha, but it's the shocking ending of a huge thing that you thought could really bring home just how impactful a movie can be, and then it ends in a certain way, and you're just like, that makes absolutely no sense. Captain America Brave New World gives you that Martha moment. And when you get that Martha moment, it just depletes you completely. This is a movie with no villain, unfortunately. It has Tim plays the leader, which unfortunately, again, something revealed to everybody, not only in trailers but in press interviews for this film. And you would naturally think that that would be the villain. Not necessarily the case here. And it's kind of unclear, even when you get to the end of the film, if this film actually has a true villain. So it just leaves Anthony Mackie as Captain America in so much limbo that you don't know exactly what to do with him. Along with some of the worst dialogue you will ever hear come out of Anthony Mackie and everyone else, in this cast. And that, again, is another issue. It sounds like I'm saying there's a lot of issues with Captain America Brave New World, and you don't want to pile on for a film, but you have to still acknowledge that a lot of these were issues that were rumored to be having happened with this film. And through reshoots, you thought some of this stuff would be fixed. And it's not. This could possibly be the worst Marvel movie made. And it's because it feels like it lacks a sense of direction in it. No matter how strong of a job Anthony Mackie does to portray Sam Wilson, at no point in time does it really feel like Sam Wilson is Captain America. And that's the problem here. It's a certain je ne sais quoi of Captain America that you're expecting eventually for Sam to portray in this film, and he never fully gets to that moment. And when we get to Sam again doubting if he should be Captain America, it makes it feel like anyone who watched Falcon and Winter Soldier that you wasted your time, because that was the show where he doubted himself up until the end, where he acknowledged why he was Captain America. But Captain America Brave New World, which comes out February the 14th, Valentine's Day and President's Day weekend, out of a possible 10, I'm going to give Brave New World a 3 out of 10. This movie is a struggle to get through. Its pacing is so horrendous that after an hour and 10 minutes, I felt like I had sat there for 2 hours. And that's because it throws plot after plot after plot at you and kind of doesn't clear any of it up for you enough to make you care moving forward. This wasn't the vehicle that it should have been to push Sam Wilson as Captain America. Instead, it feels like a film that was chopped and cut up and pasted and then delivered to the public. If you remember any of the Zack Snyder DC films and the way you felt that, or you knew you wasn't seeing his vision, you were seeing the studio's vision of his vision. That's how it feels with Captain America Brave New World, where I'm not going to say that happened with Julius here, but it feels like it because it just feels so cut and paste together that it can really leave you confused here. It continues the trend of Marvel having some of the worst CGI humanly possible, including by the time we get to the Red Hawk, that CGI was absolutely horrible. It's an end scene. As we get to the end of the film, the final parts of the third act, where it feels like amateurs shot that whole setup, that whole scene, because the CGI is horrible. It's so chopped up that it felt like this couldn't possibly come from a major studio. Like, that is the problem with Captain America Brave New World, is that possibly, I know a lot of people don't want to think throwing more money behind it possibly make it better, but this was possibly a case where that could have been true if you just threw a little bit more money behind it, a little bit more time on it. Maybe you could have at least gotten it to be decent. Unfortunately, the plot is so bad that it couldn't be good. It makes no sense, and it rushes through itself. The pacing is absolutely horrible in this movie. It almost sounds like it's nothing to like in this movie, but Anthony Mackie is a likable actor. And he's likable as Sam Wilson, but again, Sam never in this film truly becomes Captain America, and that's part of the problem with Captain America Brave New World. But check it out. Again, it drops February the 14th. Let us know what you think. Maybe you have a completely different perspective than I had on this film. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.